Testing. 1, 2. Once again, lots of technical difficulties. Broke my earbuds just before I had to put on headphones. I had to find my headphones. But anyway, looking forward to getting started here. Alright, we're almost there. Thank you for your patience. Just about 30 seconds or so, maybe 45. I don't know. But I'm seeing a lot of people here, which is really nice to see. People every week I get new people that I didn't even don't even recognize, which means maybe they haven't been here before, like Mark Smith. I see you, Mark. Anyway, let's get ready to start the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's Friday, 1 p.m., my time. My name is Abe Duque. I am an instructor at 343 Labs. We are a music school that has schools in New York, Berlin, and all over the internet. I'm here on 343 TV. I come to you on Fridays streaming all the stuff that maybe you want to see, or maybe all the stuff that I want to show you. I hope this is the same thing. Anyway, yeah, I'm glad to be back. And as you all asked, I know you could see at the top of my screen here, you all asked for it, and you got it now. Here it is. This is me and my new cat, Itty Bitty. I call him Itsy Bitsy sometimes. That's my cat. You guys asked for the picture, and now I'm gonna put that picture on for the whole show, so you guys can stop asking me. I was supposed to put it on that last week, and now this week, well, there he is. He's a rescue, 10-year-old rescue cat. He loves to be held like a baby, and as you see, he's not scratching my face or anything. I have more pictures, but I'm not going to post them on here. I see F-Stop says cat pics. All right, let's see who's here today. Let's see. I saw Paulo Andrade Santos, Francesco Maurice, I guess Maurice. The Ubik is here. Ubik, I guess you could also pronounce it. Studio Don Quixote is here. Not the Face Films is here. TI Mark, TI 80 Mark. Sorry, I always get that one wrong. Simple Sam, of course. Mark Smith, the new person I don't recognize. Maybe you've been here, but I don't recognize you in the chat. Welcome. Cookie Tranquilo. Let's see who else. F-Stop. Max Wild is here. Max Wild. Audible Video. Let's see. Am I missing anybody? I'm probably missing somebody. Todillas is here. Right. So if I didn't say your name, I'm sorry. But I'm trying to manage this whole thing going on in here while I'm also showing you pictures of me and my new cat that you guys so much wanted to see. But anyway, so let me make the picture of the cat a little smaller so it doesn't really. All right. So today I wanted to do a few things. Well, not so many, but I wanted to go on and talk a little bit about spatial delays today. But before we do, I see German Garces, Herman Garces, I guess is how you would say it, is just here. Before we do, I wanted to give you a little update. Dominique Zander, sorry, I can't stop looking at the chat and talking about you guys. So what I wanted to do was give you a little update on what I showed you last week. I had my rack that I'm building, or my live set that I'm building for the City Fox show I have on March 5th. And I showed you that I had just kind of put it together last week. So now it's coming together a little more, and I wanted to give you not a detailed kind of explanation, but maybe a small kind of preview of what is happening and now what we can do, what I can do with this. So let me just switch to my overheads here. I guess it would be this live rack view here. Oh, nope, that's not it. The live rack view is not here. Somehow I'm missing the other live rack view. Somehow I cannot get it going. But let's change this up. Let's make this one the main live rack view. So that'll have to do for today. I had a better one going on. I'll move over to the side and see if I can't fix the other one as well. But right now, I'm just gonna come over here and just explain what's going on. I'm gonna put some sound on. I think the rack has some sound going. So what I've managed to do, I've managed to set up, this is the master clock. I've also got this circuit going on in here, which is doing some nice stuff here. And I've gotten the GB303 or the TT303 going in here. There's a lot of reverb on that. And I also managed to clock up my sequencer. I don't know if you could see it from over there. Let's see, I don't know if you could see the sequencer running, but it's running now with all the devices connected to it with all this spaghetti to my rack. So I could have parts now that I'm controlling with the sequencer synced up to the TR8 as a master. See, if I turn it off, everything turns off. Turn it back on, everything gets going. And got like a bunch of things hooked up to it. And and they're all kind of set up with these VCAs and envelope generators. And I could just begin what might be a Abe Duque live set. All right, now let me stop that for a second. So let me go back to my regular station. I'm sorry the other camera didn't work. I worked so long on trying to get that camera to get going. Let's get back to my main thing here. Yeah, I don't know what happened, but I spent about half an hour trying to get that camera set up, and now it just died on me. Not good. Anyway, but I didn't mean to spend too much time on that. I just wanted to give you an update about what's going on with the Eurorack and the rest of the live set that I'm preparing for that March 5th City Fox show here in New York. What else did I want to mention about that? Oh yeah, so on the 19th we're having a big 343 Studio kind of launch event, and I'll be playing maybe not exactly that rack, but I'll be playing a similar rack setup, and I'll be doing a little bit of a performance, and then I'm going to be breaking it down in complete detail at that time. But for now, we're just going to see little glimpses of me preparing for my show coming up. So let's see what's going on in the chat. Simple Sam's the mystery guest. I don't know. Tick, tick, tick says TI 808 Mark. I don't know what it means. Let's see. I would like to get lost for an hour on there real easy. I don't know exactly what you guys are talking about, but are you using the circuit to sequence or just to add parts? Both. No, not to sequence into the CV, but I am using it to sequence so the parts that are in it. Anyway, also just to mention, there is a March 19th show, and I just mentioned it, but I want to mention it again, that I'm doing here for the kind of launch event. We have a pretty big launch event, pretty big undertaking. We're going to launch for 2 days straight. I mean, we're going to stream for 2 days straight from all places, from Berlin, from New York, from somewhere in the internet. We're going to be streaming for 2 days. That's don't ask me how we're going to get that done and how we're going to organize that, but we're going to do that. But anyway, all right, so let's get back. And for those that haven't seen my cat, it's up here. Now you know. It's just a little bit to my, what is it? There's my cat. Me and my cat. All right, let's do what I said we were going to do earlier. And, before we go on to the actual streaming lesson of the day, let me just mention that we have a giveaway for this week. And this week's giveaway is a 3-month subscription to Splice Sounds. And that, I believe, let me look in the chat, I believe there's a link for it. So Splice Sounds means you can go ahead and for 3 months go and get you some loops and samples and all the stuff that they have on there, and the amazingly curated library of samples. And we'll get you a 3-month free subscription to that if you win. And how do you know you win? Well, you subscribe. First of all, you click on the link in the chat, and then you sign up, and then you comment on tomorrow's show, on John Selway's show, the Techno Saturdays or Electro Saturdays. I think tomorrow is Techno Saturdays. And we'll announce, that's where we announce who the winner is. So take advantage of that. 3 months of that is really cool. I mean, it's amazing. I used to hoard samples for many years. I used to think, I got to have like terabytes of samples. And when you do that, it's a losing up situation. What do you need 5,000 kicks on your hard drive for when you can just go find the right one and pull it off of the cloud at any time? You don't need to be storing that and then moving them and keeping them, correctly kind of curated. It's much better if you just go and use Splice Sounds for that. But anyway, let's see. Anything else going on in the chat? Right. So 343 Labs, we just dropped the link once again in there. And so just make sure you sign up for that. All right. So let's do a little Ableton or a little bit of instruction today. And I said I wanted to, and where's my cat? My cat's got to be there somewhere. Yeah, my cat's right next to the overhead. Look at that. The overhead is working. The other head I had is still working in there. That's pretty remarkable. Anyway, I wanted to talk about spatial effects today. I wanted to talk about, and what are we talking about when we say spatial effects? I like to say that spatial effects are maybe effects with tails. And what do I mean by effects with tails? Well, delays, which repeat and have a long tail, reverb that goes and then has that kind of diffusing network of granulated bits that give you this feeling of a tail. Echo the same way. All these effects, I like to call them effects with tails, but they're referred to as spatial effects. Now, to me they're in three flavors, and when I set up my Ableton or even my Bitwig template, because I go between Ableton and Bitwig. Those are my two favorite go-to DAWs. I always set up in my returns a reverb, a delay, and an echo. And those three are there just sitting there in any blank new setup that I'll have. They will be there because they guarantee that I could quickly just drop in anything that I'm working in. I could just drop it into one of these spatial effects, and I have it set up with something like a sort of maybe sound that I might really enjoy. What I mean is a preset that I created myself that I might enjoy. Now, it might not be the sound that I keep or the effect that I keep for the whole track, but it is maybe going to be a good starting point, and I love to have them there. But let's talk about what they are, and let's break down their parameters, and let's look at what it is that we can do to get these guys better suited for what we're trying to do. So let me see here. I have this one sound here, and can I play this? Whoa, yes, I can play too much of it. That's crazy. Is that sound by itself? Yeah, it is. That's a crazy sound. Let's play that a little higher. A little higher. Okay. That sort of has its own tail, but it's pretty dry right now. But maybe for the time being, we also load in maybe a drum rack of some sort so that we can, we can toy around with effects on it. So in this drum rack, let's see, we gotta find where the area is. That's a snare right there. So let's start with delay, because delay is the simplest one to understand, and it pretty much, if you can understand this delay that I'm about to show you, you can understand any delay. Delay is very simple. So with delays, we talk about taps. So a tap, and let's link these left and right. A tap is, the amount of repeats coming from a certain location. And if you have one tap delay, it's the same as linking these together. And then let me just send it a little bit to it. You hear that coming in mono because it's coming through both of these together, and they're essentially one tap. And they're repeating right now, and that's that. Now, if you want to have a two-tap delay, let me unlink these, and let me set different timing to the left and to the right. And you could hear left and right having two different taps. The taps happen at different rates. Maybe they could happen at the same rate, which was happening before, essentially. And, it just made it virtually one tap. But if they're happening at different rates, they're definitely two separate taps. Okay, so right now we're dealing with a two-tap delay, which is left and right usually, right? So let's break down how Ableton does it. And Ableton does this numbering system here. So the numbering system that we have here represents the notes in 16th notes based on the tempo that you have on the project. So right now, if I'm playing, say, both of them at 1/16 notes, they're going to both repeat at 16th note intervals. Now that's great because when I started in the industry, what was happening was that delays that existed, the early ones, didn't really sync up to MIDI. Pretty soon they started to have MIDI inputs, and you would sync them up to the tempo, to the MIDI time code. But initially they didn't, and you would have to dial in your times for the tempo in milliseconds. So let's say I'm going to switch them now to milliseconds. Now we're in milliseconds. I would have to dial in these taps in milliseconds to see what they would be. So let's switch this to an easier number. Let's say 120. So we have a 120 BPM. And the way we would do it back when I started, it was that you would take the number 60 and divide it by the BPM. So the BPM was in this case is not 20, 120. That's what I want. In this case, it's 120. And 60 divided by 120 is 0.5. And to that, you would add 2 zeros to tell you how many milliseconds that would be. So it would be 500 milliseconds. So if I dial in, let me just type them in, 500 milliseconds on both of these, what I'm going to get is the quarter note on them. So play that. Sorry, that's not what I wanted to play. But as you can hear now, they're repeating in quarter notes. Okay, and if I wanted to do something faster than that, like say 16th note, we'd have to dial in 250 milliseconds. I'm going to leave this one at 500 and this one at 250. And that's how you get a kind of a two-tap left and right ping pong sort of delay going. And if you wanted to do something even, faster, like right now, 250 milliseconds is 16th notes. If you wanted to do, let's say, 30-second notes, you'd have to go to maybe 125 milliseconds. And actually, that's a 16th note. This is a 8th note. Now we're doing 16th and 8th. Right, so now let's do 16th and let's do half of 125. So what's half of 125? That's going to be 62.5. So let's do 62. Let's do 63 on this side. And now I have what you get is, 16th note and 32nd note. And you can keep that going. You can keep that going as far as you want. You can go even lower than that or faster than that. But that starts getting weird. But let's do that. Let's go faster than that. Let's go to half of 62, which would be 31, I guess. Let's just do 31. See what happens. And now we have 31. Oh, that's cool. So as you could see right now, I'm able to manipulate the times in milliseconds and use more interesting values than what you get when you look at it like this. So just to reiterate, right here in which we're looking at is values of 16th notes. So this is 1/16th note. This is 2/16th notes, which is an 8th note. This is 3/16th notes. This is 4/16th notes, which is a quarter note. And so on and so forth until you get to 16/16th notes, which is a whole note. Which, okay. But in this setup right here, we can get very, very exact, smaller cuts of it. So right now, again, we're looking at 32nd notes and 16th notes. Actually, we're looking at 64th notes and 32nd notes, I think. Now, in all delays, there's a feedback knob. The feedback knob on the delay, well, I'll tell you in a second. Let me just go look at the chat. I want to see if anybody's talking about the stuff. I can build grooves and ideas, but struggling with melodies. Any advice on how I can learn in a way that doesn't feel overwhelming. Okay, we can talk about that in a minute. Maybe I'll come back to that, but I want to stick with the delays for a second. Okay, some Audible video is saying use the notes of the underlying chords in your track. Try different notes. Like, this is great advice. Exactly what I would actually probably say right now. Thank you, Audible video, for picking up the slack here. Martin Crockett, pick a key, play around with the notes in that key. Thank you, Martin. Also very cool. Okay, Danica Becker is here. Let's see what else is going on. Okay, good. Everybody is taking care of each other. I love that. All right, so we're back to dealing with what feedback is. So feedback is, well, with zero feedback setup. Let's go back to the time-based setup here. With zero feedback setup, you're only going to get one repeat. That's it, just one repeat. That's it. Play the original, and then the repeats will happen on the taps as you set them up. Just one repeat. Okay, but if I start raising the feedback, what it means is that it's feeding itself. It's feeding the sound back into itself, and it's forcing itself to repeat the sound again, but with a decaying sort of cycle. So as you could hear, as I raise the feedback, there are more repeats, and if I keep it going, there are much more repeats, but every sequential repeat is a little bit lower in volume until it just kind of decays off to nothing. And at like 95%, which is the highest you can go here, you have a very long held out set of repeats that happen at the values that you set up. And it's still going. Now, I don't recommend that you use 95. Maybe using, if you wanted to like have it repeat forever, you can catch it in here, which is an infinity symbol, which means it just kind of freezes the delay there. So that's it. That's how most delays are set up, and that's the basics of delay. So the the time selection, which you can dial in yourself, and the kind of automated it looks at the tempo and does the math for you setup. This also allows for a very nice pushing and pulling, or pushing forward and pulling back in time the delay, so that the taps happen at different types of staggered paces. I have some beats in here. Let me play what I got going. Got a kind of a initial techno beat going there. So if I hit that, I'm going to make that a little louder so you could hear that with the delay and the feedback. But now let me stagger one of them, like this one. See how that changes the whole game? Let's go the other direction. So this just pushes and pulls in time where the delays are going to happen according to where you hit it, which is wonderful to play with these. I love that Ableton did this to let you kind of move these around that way. It doesn't keep you it doesn't keep you right on the grid, which can be okay, and it does sound pretty good. And I think most people know how to do that and do that when they use delays, that they keep it right on the grid. But the fact that you can actually move these back and forth in time, that to me is fantastic. So also Ableton gives you a nice ping pong setup here. So ping pong is going to guarantee that left and right get staggered. So you could have the same value. You could have them both repeat at 16th notes. But with ping pong on, it's going to do this staggering left and right thing, which is very nice. Also included in this delay in Ableton is a filter, which not all delays have, but this is very handy, because you could just say delay just the high frequency stuff, or delay just the low frequency stuff, or the mids. And then I guess you could sweep it. I think they even have a modulation here that you can perform so that you can sweep this if you like. But if your delay, the one that you're using, doesn't have a filter on it, it's the easy enough thing you can do. You can just have a delay that has your setup. Let's say yours is in time, and let's increase this back to, what was it, 125 and 250 to get them in higher numbers here. So yeah. So let's say we do that. And then we can go and grab an EQ, which I'm sure that your DAW will have, and drop that in there. And then you can run it through that and make it repeat and sound however you like. You can deal with highs, just lows, do a little of that, do some weirder stuff if you want. That's your choice. And with that said, it opens up another can of worms where you could say, well, if you have delays, then maybe you could drop in other effects. Maybe, yeah. Why don't we go ahead and take the delay and set that through maybe a flanger? Where is the flanger in here? So I think it's together with the phaser. There it is. So let's put that effect through that. Oh, now that's interesting. So don't be afraid of adding effects to your special effects. This is really wonderful way. Let's play the music. Look at that. And I got this delay set up here in my return track. It has EQ, which I could have used this, but I'm using this because I'm going to not expect that everybody here is using Ableton. But this can be done with anybody's DAW. And then I've added a flanger to the end of it, which is wonderful. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Let's see. Audible video. Abe, would you filter out the lows on your delays? So, yes, I would, depending on what I'm trying to do. So one of the things that I like to do, say, with vocals, right, when I'm teaching my vocal processing classes, or in my mixing and mastering classes. By the way, I have a mixing and mastering course starting on Tuesday. It runs Tuesday and Thursdays at 7:15 p.m. New York City time. There's still some room left in there. If you guys want to join up and take a class with me, this Tuesday starts the new mixing and mastering class online, 7:15 Tuesdays and Thursdays for 12 sessions. But anyway, when I'm teaching these classes, I'm talking about vocal processing. One of my favorite things to do is when I add delay to vocals, I don't want to have it repeat the top end of it. I want to have the top end, or the stuff that has all the syllables and the S's and T's in it and consonants. I don't want those to be caught up in the delay. I want them to be more or less a little bit on the muffled side, because when you have a delay that is, having the high frequencies on there for a vocal, what happens is while the vocal's singing, the delay is catching, and then that delay tends to, try to confuse your listening, or takes away from the intelligibility of what the vocal is still saying, because you're still focused on what's happening caught in that delay, which is, clear words. So it can be a little bit of a jumbled mess there. So if you just roll off the high end on a delay in vocal production, when you're adding delay to vocals, you'll have a much better time. It'll feel a lot better, and it'll sound a lot better when that is the case. So yes, and so in this case, I'm talking about rolling off the high end, but in a lot of times I will, then roll off the low end instead, in case I just want to have, that multiplied and not the low end of whatever the sound is. So you have a choice. You definitely have a choice. Let's see. Let's play this. Have this stuff in here. Let's create a part with this thing here quickly. And I'm just gonna play some. I'm gonna make sure it records my quantized values of my playing in, not wasting time. I think that should be enough. That's good. I'm going to add delay to that. That's a delay that I've been working on now with the flanger in it. Michael Black says hello. Hello, Michael Black. Good to see you here. So let's turn off the phaser for a second. And let's just cut out, just repeat the high end. See how that sounds? Nice flavoring on top. It's a different type of flavoring than maybe the whole thing. You should always experiment with cutting out something from a delay. Let's just do the low end. Not as noticeable, but if you like solo it, you could hear the low end repeating itself. Now let's do the mids. So you get a different flavor there than if you did the highs. Rodrigo Ortega, hello. Okay, so just pick something I like and then let it come back into the beat. And you could make this band as narrow as you want. Turn back the flanger on. All right, we're having a lot of fun here. So just to let you guys know once again, I mean, I think you do know what you're watching, but you're watching 343 TV. My name is Abe Duque. I am an instructor at 343 Labs, which is a school that we have with locations in New York and in Berlin and on the internet, all over the internet. Please come take a class with us. Check out our website. We have classes starting all the time. We also have 343 Studio now, which is another program that we just launching on March 19th. We have our big 2-day March launch event, which is going to be 19th and correct me if I'm wrong, 343 in the chat, but I think it's 19th and 20th are the launch dates. So and we'll be streaming for 8 hours on Saturday, and I'm not sure how long, maybe a little less on Sunday, but we're going to be still streaming for a long time, Saturday and Sunday. We're going to have a lot planned for that. And for that, I'm doing a live set with my Eurorack, and I'm going to be breaking it down for everybody. But there'll be all sorts of things going on there. Oh, look, John Selway is in the chat. John has a show which you should watch tomorrow. We will announce the winner of the giveaway for this week, which is a 3-month subscription to what is it? Splice Sounds. That's it. 3-month subscription. So the link is in the chat. Go sign up and come back tomorrow to find out if you won or not. All right. So let's see. In the chat, people are talking to John. Hi, John. Don't do anything cool without me tomorrow. Hey, John, did you see my cat? My cat picture is here on my. If you wanted to, I could make it a little bigger for you guys. There's my cat picture once again. Yes, I have a cat now. Got a cat a couple of weeks ago. Rescued Kitty from the pound. Name is Itty Bitty. And yeah, he's a lap cat. Anyway, let's get back into what we were doing. So we're talking about delay, and we're talking about spatial effects today. So the delay is definitely something that we use a lot. We know now how to use it. We know now how to calculate the times by doing the divisions of 60 by 60. What you're doing is you're dividing by the possible quarter notes. So when you have when you have your BPM and divide it by 60, you'll get the quarter note value, and then take that and multiply and divide as you need to end up with the other values that you need. If you need 8th note value, 32nd note value, 64th note value, you saw us do that earlier, and you dial it in. Here is the feedback. The feedback is going to determine how long the tail is, how many repeats you're going to get. At 0, you're going to get 1 repeat, and that's it. Moving up from that, you'll get as many as, well, you can go up to 95%, because other than that, it would be this, which would be infinity, which means it would just be held out forever. And then the filter setup that Ableton puts here, if you're not working with Ableton or the delay that you have does not have this parameter, then you could easily just grab an EQ and put it after your delay and, filter out the lows and the highs or whatever, just the lows or just the highs to get the kind of flavoring you want in your delay. And don't forget that you could also add effects after your delay. I mean, in this case, we put it in a flanger to get some nice, interesting back and forth modulation here. Let's see. Donica Becker's maybe talking about my cat. Well, I know Donica loves cats. So I'm talking about the cable management tubes for cats. Don't know about that. Let's see. Let's go to another type of special effect, and that would be the reverb. And in this case, we're looking at Ableton's reverb. But I tell you, Ableton's algorithmic reverb, which is what we're looking at right now, is pretty typical of what you get in a lot of algorithmic reverbs. Let's grab another one. Let's grab another one that may be super famous and used a lot that is not Ableton. I don't want to just make this a Ableton-centric thing if I don't have to. So let me see if I don't need UAD stuff right now. I could grab a bunch of UAD reverbs. There's a bunch that I maybe should mention because but let's grab this Valhalla. This is a Valhalla vintage verb that everybody loves these days. Okay, so there it is, and we'll kind of compare that. Every reverb, of course, is going to be set up slightly differently, and I'm talking about right now specifically. I see people talking about cats, and it's taking my attention away. Techno-catter days. Yes, John, Techno-catter days. This week we did a collaboration event or collaboration session for the 343 studio, and we broke up into teams, and people were talking about my cats there again, or my cat. I only have one cat, and the one team decided to call themselves the Techno Cats, just to let you guys know, for whatever that's worth. But anyway, yes, don't distract me with cat stuff. Oh man, I got to look at my cat again. So here's my cat. And I'll make them big just for a second. There it is. Itty bitty. All right. Back to the show. Anyway, so what we're looking at here is the algorithmic reverb. There's several ways of getting reverb done. Like even beside the computer. Like if you wanted reverb, what is reverb anyway? It's the capturing of a space's reaction to a particular sound wave, right? So if you go into that space, so let's say you walk into a cathedral and sing, you're going to get the reverb that space gives you, because that's the that's what happens to those waves as they bounce around all those surfaces and kind of hang around in there until they diffuse to nothing. But not, we don't all have the luxury of doing that. But in the early times of recording industry, people did that. People did just go to spaces and record things in the right space. I don't know. I remember hearing a story or reading a story about David Bowie liking an apartment, a friend's apartment, and he had a certain hall in that apartment, how his voice sounded in there, and he actually went and recorded in there because of that. So that's one option for reverb, right? Just actually recording the reverb in the space. But then there were other things, like there's been plate reverb, which is a big giant plate, a metal plate that you kind of mic up or put pickups on to capture the resonation that you get when you maybe play a snare in front of it or sing in front of it. That's a plate reverb, but those are also hard to organize for home. There's spring reverb, which is if you've ever helped a friend move an amp, you can, a lot of amps have reverb built into it, so you'll hear springs in there going. So that's spring reverb, and then we go into the maybe reverb that we get into with the digital world. And the first type, and the type that you pretty much know till today, is the algorithmic reverb, which uses algorithms, or two different processes. meaning it has two algorithms, the algorithmic reverb, that get the sound going of a reverb. And usually you start with one algorithm and it ends with the second algorithm. And the first algorithm is always referred to as the early reflections or early. And the second algorithm is always referred to as the late reflections or late, but Ableton will call that the diffusion network. So if you look at Ableton's setup here, you have early reflections, and that's one algorithm that starts the game. It starts the action. The pre-delay on it, is the how long it takes for the first reflection to come about. So, sound goes, and then the first thing you hear from that reverb coming back to you, that's the early reflection. And the pre-delay determines how long that early reflection is going to take before it gets to your ears. When I first heard of the early reflection, of the pre-delay parameter, I saw a pre-delay parameter on a reverb for the first time. I was really, really confused by it. I was like, what the heck? Because I thought, how does it know? Like, pre-delay, does it know the future? Like, how could... It was a very, very confusing name for a parameter. Brilliant name. But all it means is this: how long does it take for the first reflection to get to you? And then once that has happened, you'll get the second part of the reverb, which is this kind of this kind of a soup of sound, like what Ableton calls the diffusion network or the late reflections. And it's basically a bunch of granulized sort of particles kind of living around there and kind of just doing their thing and then finally diffusing away to nothing. And that will be determined by the decay time on there. So let's just focus on Ableton's for now. Let's close that on there. I mean, I could grab a bunch of other ones. I maybe should start grabbing some of the other ones that I have. I have a lot of cool universal audio ones. So let's see. The one that I don't want to forget mentioning is this one. And let's see a couple of other ones that are really classics here as reverbs go. Oh, this EMT, I think the 140 is the one. Yeah, that's a plate reverb. And let's see what else we have. Oh, these lexicons are really nice. There we go. Just dropping them in there, just kind of like have them to look at one point. But these are all. I don't want to. Again, I don't want to make. I don't want to make it all about Ableton, right? I wanted to kind of just give you an idea to look at things as that Ableton does not have. So here we have this one, and I love this EMT. That's a nice plate reverb, and then this AMS, also very nice. Okay, so let's get back to the Ableton one to kind of just do the example here. So, whoa, got that sound. Let's get that. That's a crazy sound. Let's get back to that snare, and let's get the reverb on that snare. So let's see what's happening to this snare with this reverb. First of all, let's turn off the EQing here. We have EQing on it. So basically, it's going in, and you have, which is really nice, you have two levels here. You have a level for the diffusion network or the late reflections and for the early reflections. So without this, you really don't get anything. But this will just play you the early reflections. And it's good to learn about reverb for yourself by being able to hear the early reflections on your own. See what pre-delay does? I've got the diffusion network all the way down, or the late reflections all the way down, and all we're hearing right now is the pre-delay on the early reflections, and it doesn't last very long. You see that? It just that very early little sound. That is the early reflections, but it's a big part of it. It's a big part of it. It's more of an echo than an actual part in the diffusion network. Let's listen to the diffusion network now. And as you hear that, it's more like a soup, and it's a bit. What it does is a bit of these granulated. It takes a bit of that, a sample of that of that sound, and it makes little grains out of it. And how many grains we're talking about here? Well, this is the density knob in this case. It tells you how many grains you'll have. So more grains, less grains. Not really easy to hear. And then this is the size of the grain. Bigger grain, smaller grain. And the big parameter, I think, here, there's two. The big parameters here are going to be the size, which is going to basically trying to get at how big the room is. But basically also determines a lot to do with the tone of it. And the decay time, which we can go as high as 60 seconds with. So Audible Video asks, is PreDelay the way you demonstrate it like a slapback? Yeah, it's a little bit. It like slapback is delay, and delay and reverb are very closely related to each other. I'll show you in a second, but yeah, slapback would be like I don't have any right now. I don't have any PreDelay going, but let's put the PreDelay up, and let's take the tame up. See how that feels like slapback. So yes, but technically speaking, slapback is more related to delay. Let's go back to the delay for a second, and not this. Let's turn these guys off, and let's get a at time and make it a shorter feedback. I'll link them both. So, am I in the right place here? C is the wrong thing. I got this one. This is what I'm looking at here. So I'll open up the feedback then and look at the... So a very short delay time is slapback. Again, you might want to do it at, so what was that, 62 probably? Oh, let's do this one, 62. Sorry, wrong keyboard. So playing that in. That's kind of a slapbacky. So if this was a vocal, like an Elvis vocal, that slapback setting would be short delay. But if you realize that in the reverb, there is a way to get that going. But you also have the diffusion network. But if I turned off the diffusion network, you just get kind of one slapback going. So yeah, delay and reverb are very related to each other. Let's look at another way that I could make a reverb, a delay sound a lot like a reverb if I keep on going to the wrong thing here. This is the delay. So if I increase the feedback, if this was a vocal, this would mean this would get, let me see if I can record myself. That would be really cool. So I'm just going to record myself real quick. Yeah, all right. I'm recording myself now. Let's see what that did. Yeah, all right. I'm recording myself now. Now I'm adding it to the reverb. Yeah, all right. I'm recording myself now. So I'm adding that to the delay. Yeah, all right. I'm recording myself now. And let me play with all right. Recording myself. Sorry, that was the echo. I keep on doing the same mistake. Here we go. Yeah, all right. I'm recording myself now. Yeah, all right. I'm recording myself now. So there's similarity to if you get a small enough sample without making myself sound like a robot. Yeah, all right. It gets that a little bit of the feeling of what you get in a reverb, because in the reverb, it's similar things are happening. albeit it's a bunch of other grains and they're kind of all crossfading into each other at different times in time, and it gets that soup going that's a little more kind of crossfaded and blended. This fast delay time here allowed for kind of a peek into that kind of world. So the connection between delay and reverb is more than you may have thought it is. So let's get back into the reverb. Sorry, I just want to kind of like round this off here. So early reflections, late reflections, or the Ableton calls it diffusion network, a great thing. With reverb, you might, just the same as with delay, you might want to EQ the sound of it, both on the way in, and this adds a different setup here where you can like actually EQ the input sound that you get into the reverb before the reverb does anything with it. You can like, it actually is filtering for the input and output, the low cut and high cut on the input, which you can take care of that before, and that has a different result than if you do it after, which you can do as well here, which is you can add, these are shelves, but same difference in a way, where you can, lower the high and lower the low on the output of what the reverb actually did. Now, if your reverb doesn't have that, you can easily just go ahead and get that done with an EQ. Now let's look at some of these other reverbs that we have here. Did someone eat delay? Okay, so some delay eating lunch or something. Okay, that sounds funny. I don't know what it's talking about, but yeah. So here's the vintage verb from Valhalla. We have the decay here, of course, the mix PreDelay. Again, same thing. This one has a bunch of different algorithms, which, makes it a far superior reverb than the one in Ableton, and even coloring based on decades, so they're going to give you some more brightness on things. Damping, which is a way to control the high frequencies over the decay of it. It's basically the same thing we were talking about, which is the high frequency control, like maybe making less high frequency control happen. The shape, which is Ableton had a size knob here, so early and late. So this is the volume for the early and late. You see how they call it late. Ableton still calls it diffusion network, early and late. And modulation, some modulation that you're going to be able to do in this one. A little bit of a different setup than Ableton. And then high cut and low cut EQ. Always there. Let's look at these other ones. So this one's more of a digital setup where you can get the things, but here you have low and high cut that you can apply immediately, and a lot more things that you can go. I don't want to go menu diving into this one, but this one's a very classic reverb. This one was the one that Phil Collins and all that bunch used. Phil Collins developed his gated snare reverb with this actual reverb, this exact reverb. But not only that people use it for snares, but vocals, David Bowie, Peter Gabriel, they all use these for vocals. Very classic 80s reverb. And also, of course, you can't, this is my favorite plate reverb. This is just a plate kind of emulator, which is, if you're, for vocals and for snares, plates are, something you think about immediately. And then we have the lexicons, of course. Lexicons, kind of, you think reverb and immediately you think lexicon, because lexicon was maybe the first to bring reverb into the digital realm back in the early 80s. And I remember these devices were super expensive at the time. I mean, I'm talking about thousands of dollars, $8,000-$9,000 for these devices when you could afford them. You could have a reverb at home. So yeah, and all these, if you look around, you're going to see parameters that we're basically talking about now. I mean, the parameters are going to be more or less the same all the way around in the algorithmic reverb. Not to be confused with convolution. Convolution is a yet another newer technology towards making reverb happen. Convolution is when you go into a space and record what you call an impulse response, which is a basically a recording of, say, a clap or a sine wave in a particular space, and have that recording of that, take that as a way of knowing how the room reacts to that particular sound, and we call that an impulse response. Put that into the convolution reverb and convolve it with the actual sound that you're trying to add reverb to, and there's an extrapolation that occurs that gives it the sound of the room, and it's actually very spot on. So you can really get spaces almost perfectly with convolution, if not perfectly, going. Convolution reverbs, Ableton has a convolution reverb and the hybrid reverb, and also in the old Max for Live convolution reverb. I think the most famous convolution reverb is the Alter Verb, a very expensive reverb, but I guess worth the money if you're looking to model a particular space. Not exactly very easy to use, because you do have to land upon the right impulse response to get the sound you want. Impulse responses are not that kind of there are not a lot of parameters to tweak the impulse response. You either have the right impulse response or you switch it out to another one. There are parameters, there are ways to work with the impulse response that you have. But the algorithmic reverb, which we still have today, is the most malleable when it comes to cosmetically changing it to do what you like. And it's because of this that most producers will end up having more than one algorithmic reverb that's their go-to. Some people like the Ableton one, but a lot of people like that vintage verb from Valhalla, and I love that AMS RMX 16. And the EMT 140 and the Lexicon stuff. And you can collect reverbs for a long time. I could get, the Fab Filter Pro R is excellent algorithmic reverb. So these are, Danica Becker is asking, it's in the packs? No. The convolution? Yes, the convolution. But if you have Ableton 11, you'll be using the hybrid reverb, which has both algorithmic and convolution going on in there. It's actually a pretty powerful reverb. I actually really like it because you kind of have best of both worlds in there. They did a good thing with that, Ableton did. Anyway, we are running out of time. I think we've run out of time. I'm sorry to tell you that I have to go because it's time to say goodbye. But before we say goodbye, I just need to stress that this is my cat picture that everybody's been asking me to bring. There's Itsy Bitsy. Or itty bitty. My kids call it itty bitty. I call it itsy bitsy. Anyway, you're watching 343 TV. My name is Abe Duque. I'm here every Friday. My show is called Production Basics. I'm a teacher at 343 Labs. Please visit our website. Have a look at our class schedules. We have classes starting all the time. We have schools in New York and in Berlin and on the internet. I have a class, an internet class, starting this Tuesday at 7:15. So we meet Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7:15 for 12 sessions. It's a mixing and mastering class. If you want to take a class with me, it would be great to see you in there. Don't forget, we have a launch event on March 19th for 343 Studio, where I'll be performing live with my ear rack setup, and I'll be also breaking it down for you. Lots of stuff happening. And if you're in New York and you want to come and see me play live on March 5th at City Fox at Avant Gardner, you can do that as well. But, and the giveaway. One more time, the giveaway this week is a 3-month subscription to Splice Sounds, and you can find out who wins at tomorrow's show on John Selway's Techno Saturdays, which he'll be announcing the winner for that. So the link is in the chat. Go in there, sign up for that. I can't do it because I'm a 343 instructor. I'd love to get a free 3-month Splice account. But I can't, but you can. So see you next week, and let's keep this going. So till then, I'll say goodbye.